From deep in the Burbank Media District, it's time for another edition of My Burbank Talks, presented by the staff of My Burbank. Now, let's see what's on today's agenda as we join our program.
Hello, Burbank. Craig Sherwood here with you once again, along with my cohort, Ross Benson.
How the heck are you? Boy, Oh, something, whoa.
You got a squirrel in your throat or maybe a frog?
I'm not sure. Did they find the thing groundhog?
The groundhog?
Groundhog. My tooth is in, right?
Yeah. All your kiblets are...
Oh, my, what?
Your kiblets are kibbling.
My giblets are... Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, this Easter, you have to buy some more of those fake candy, or Easter, buy more, Halloween. Buy more of those candy corns.
Candy corn, love
so you
that.
have a more teeth that way.
All right, there they go. Well, here we can.
Well, this week, once again, Craig Durling is on assignment. He's at the Oscars, being an Oscar guy.
Is that where he is?
Yes, yeah.
I saw him standing like that.
Yeah,
he must pose for that.
Well, he just use gold spray paint and give him a flower pot to stand in. You'd never know.
It's funny. I looked at my son's Emmy, and on the bottom of it, it says you can't do any of that stuff.
You can't stand a flower pot and paint yourself gold?
Nope, nothing that resembles.
I think they're very protective of their brand, aren't they?
Well, it's funny. Many years ago, one of our past mayors used to put on a heck of a New Year's party, and she wanted to do Oscars theme. She had a gentleman make 5 of those statues.
Oh.
Well, they were hidden in her garage for many years.
Yeah. Especially when that's all right here in North Hollywood, the Academy here. And I think what it is the word Oscars is trademarked. You can't even use that anywhere, but you're allowed to use Academy Awards. Believe it or not, the Super Bowl is the same way. You're really not allowed to say Super Bowl on things. You have to say, big game and things like that.
Wow.
Pat Riley, years ago, when he was the Lakers, and they'd won 2 championships in a row, and he got up at the parade and said, "I think we're ready for a three-peat." And it took off, the word three-peat. He got that registered. Anybody who uses three-peat now anywhere, they got to pay him. Wow. Pat Riley. Not as dumb as that series on HBO made him look. Anyhow, welcome everybody. The week that was and the week that will be for March 4th. Enough of our kibitzing, and let's get to the show here. Last week's winner, Mike Scott. Wow. Congratulations, Mike. You are the winner of a $25 Hill Street Cafe gift card, which is good for all sorts of great meals and food and soups and the whole galore. So please you didn't send your address with your email, so please send your address in, and we will get that card out to you forthwith.
Congratulations, Mike. Enjoy that soup of the week.
Yeah. And I always recommend Monday nights, before our show, of course, where they have the tomato bisque.
Tomato bisque.
I love that. Okay, so last week, a quick city council recap. It was an interesting meeting because our mayor was actually back in Washington, D.C., talking to the other politicians and trying to work on grants and fundings and I think water and power stuff and all that, and trying to, help Burbank agenda. I think he met with one of the senators back there, Alex Padilla. Didn't I see it? Yeah. And a lot of people don't know that Alex Padilla has a lot of local ties. In fact, his father used to work at where we have our pre-show dinner every night.
Used to be
every
the
Monday.
chef there.
He was the chef at Patty's, so he's very familiar with the area. So
that he is.
And if we get Adam Schiff as the other senator, we're going to have 2 very localized senators for this area for a change.
But I thought that technology was pretty cool. He
ran the meeting from Washington through Zoom, and the city did a good job in they had a camera pointed toward the dais so he could see everybody, and I think it worked really well. And then anything they had to do in-house, like public comment and stuff, you had the Vice Mayor Nikki Perez take care of that.
Yep, that worked out pretty well. Meeting ran semi smooth.
Well, so once again, and I don't blame these people, but they have to understand. They had a protest before the meeting about the BRT, that bus rapid transit, thing going through Burbank, which is going to be a huge concern. but they had a protest, and then they all went in during oral communications and talked about, don't approve this, don't do, and it's not on the agenda. The only thing on the agenda was to approve a contract with a company to manage transit projects, but it had nothing to do with the actual approving of the route or anything like that itself. That's going to come up in later this month, the end of this month, I think. So they all talked for a long time, and the council can't. They have the Brown Act. You can't talk about things that aren't on the agenda itself. So they're kind of circumvented a little by talking about the company that was on there. There's also a lot of people upset about the striping on Olive, that they restriped Olive between Glen Oaks and Sunset Canyon. And we actually did a video on it, and the video, we had a technical problem. I had to pull a video down today, but hopefully by the time you hear this show, the video will be back up again. And when I drove it for the video, I was surprised. And David Kriske gave a great presentation, which you will read, on the video. You'll see his whole presentation about it. And he said that the lane is no smaller or larger than any other standard traffic lane in Burbank. Okay, I get that. But what I don't understand, why does it have to be so close to parked cars? In fact, when I drove up it, the trash can man had been there that day, and when the trash can puts the trash cans down, they put a couple of trash cans kind of in the traffic lane. So now you've got a very narrow lane with traffic cans kind of in it, which you will see on the video when it gets back up again. But there's literally probably no more than maybe a foot between the lane and a parked car.
Yeah, I saw some of your unedited version, and I think I saw a guy getting out of his car that he literally stood right next to the car so he didn't get his butt.
Well, I kind of made sure I got him in the video for that reason, to show how narrow it is.
These big trucks, these new Ford 950s, they got mirrors.
The mirrors alone. Yeah, the mirrors stick out probably 2 feet.
Yeah, so it's going to be.
But
I will say,
and you as a member of Walk Bike Burbank, there is no bicycle consideration whatsoever.
No.
Are you supposed to ride your bike in the middle of the street now? Up the street in the middle? I mean, is that what you're supposed to do? I mean, is that safe? You have to cross traffic to get into to ride up the middle of the street? It makes no sense why they wouldn't put like they do on Verdugo. Verdugo had 2 lanes. They took 1 lane off. They put in a dedicated bike lane and then a lane of traffic with a little bit of a medium in the middle.
Right.
I thought, okay, good configuration. Why wouldn't they do that here? I mean,
what I will say to David Kriske's defense, he did explain it. And if you go to
when we have our video back up, you can actually hear his explanation. We'll have that video up by the time you hear this.
And it's written out rather well. This was not an overnight thought. They've been talking about this for months. It's part of the Safe Streets. Part of the Safe Streets.
How safe isn't that Safe Street? Isn't bicycles part of Safe Streets though?
Well, the reason they did it is they wanted to slow traffic down. Talk about slow it down.
Oh, absolutely.
Almost stopped it. But like you said, they're going to, if you have a complaint, if you want to talk about it, if you have a question, send it in, because that's what they will go by.
Right.
When they reevaluate.
They said they're going to wait 2 months and then reevaluate. And like you said, they're just lines. They can be removed and redone. So this is not permanent, but I just don't think it was, they say they planned it, but I don't think they realized once they did it. And I said, how do you forget about bicycles? Isn't that part of the complete streets though? The bicycles?
Well, but being part of Walk Bike Burbank,
yeah,
there are many parts of this city.
Well, yeah,
they forgot about.
In fact, we will do a video on that down the line too. There's a lot of places in our bike routes that I think are completely unsafe for bikes.
They are. So it's well, I know it's farther down on our show, but talking about that, wait till this next weekend, and people are going to be going the wrong way on San Fernando.
Yes, that's true. We'll get to that a little bit later. Holy cow. But once again, I don't mind the changes. I don't mind them trying to streamline things and make things better and all that. But I'm just, I'm a little perplexed on the Olive thing. I just, there's something not right there.
Well, the funny thing is, I do look at that thing called Facebook. I know you don't. People are asking, somebody's going to want to build an ADU out in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
And it's about wide enough that you could.
We could do a whole public park out there.
Right.
Put a whole baseball fields in, or the soccer field.
There
Everyone
you
wants, wants the soccer
I
fields.
don't want my ball rolling down. My ball to roll down.
Yes. Hold on to your ball.
Yes, I will.
Yes.
No, we'll move on.
We'll move on. We're still a G-rated show, I hope. Wednesday, that was canceled due to lack of interest. Thursday was, of course, the leap year day. That was February 29th. And every 4 years, of course, we have leap year. So those poor babies that are born on that day, they don't age, though. That's a nice thing, So by the time 40 years goes by, they're only 10 years old.
Well, it's funny. On Wednesdays, I go with my granddaughter after her swimming lesson. We came home. We started talking about leap year. And she said, I'd only be one. I'd be younger than my sister. Wait, my sister? Yeah. So it got into a good conversation of leap years and, you're for the people that are born that year.
Yeah, no, the question is, do they celebrate their birthday the day before on the 28th or the day after on the 1st?
I honestly, I think they got ripped off, so they should have it on both days.
Oh, absolutely. That's a good point.
Happy birthday to all those leap year February 29th.
We also, on My Burbank, we ran a story about the rainwater and Burbank's rights. I should say Burbank's lack of rights, because Burbank does not have the rights to any of the rainwater that comes from the sky. And we explained in the story what it's all about and how LA controls the rainwater. But I just can't understand why we can't keep a little, some of it, because if you look at the LA River, there's enough there for LA to keep and put into a jar for eternity.
Being over here in the media district.
Adjacent.
I go over by the smokehouse every so often when there's that is a hell of a lot of water.
Oh, it's
a heck of a lot of water.
And last time Craig Dillon shot a video, he was running around 60 miles an hour too.
Well, I'll tell you, you think of that groundwater, who really thinks about it? Dodger. He's out of it.
Oh.
That's what he does on rain days.
Because you talking to me?
Well, see, I talk about
talking
him.
To me?
Woke him up.
Oh.
He's the type of dog that loves rainwater.
Oh, yeah. Yes, he does. He runs down to the doggy door and comes in and
shakes.
Yes. He has the dog sprinkler system inside the house. So anyhow, it's an interesting read about why we have no water rights and what we do about it. Now individuals, of course, can capture the rain in buckets and barrels and everything else and use it during the year, but not the city.
Now, I got into the article. I don't think I finished it, but question.
It's a little dry and it's a little bit
you
complicated.
Couldn't find too many of my pictures in it.
Yes. Well,
sorry about that.
By the way, I actually looked for pictures called rain.
I don't think I've ever shot any rain
pictures.
No,
you haven't.
But I could have shot when we went up to Hoover Dam and shot the reservoirs. And,
yeah, well, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, those were in there. But, you get to thinking, everybody says, oh, this project here in Burbank and this project there in Burbank. How are we going to have enough water? There's enough water because of how we buy water.
Yeah.
And so forth.
And we have credits we get and stuff from LA it's kind of complicated, but it makes sense, but it still isn't, it's not wet reading, it's dry reading.
Yeah.
So moving on to Friday, we got another storm hit the area of rainwater we couldn't keep. And I know here at my Burbank Weather Center, we got 1.22 inches on that day. So where the rain season goes from September 1st through August 31st. It doesn't go like the fiscal year or the calendar year. So I didn't.
Who came up with that plan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's Mike Nolan when you want to ask him?
Yeah, where is Mike?
Oh, we know where Mike is.
Well. The weekend. On Saturday.
Is there a drum roll?
We have a drum roll for this. A long drum roll. There we go. Judy Wilkie, our former assistant city manager, threw her hat into the ring for a city council seat. Um, what's interesting about that is that well, we have the primary election on tomorrow, Tuesday, but she's the second one now. Chris Rosati also announced, and here's the thing: we won't know until after tomorrow, of course. But if both Constantine Anthony and Nick Schultz make the runoff in November, they are barred from running again for their seats. They cannot run for their seats while they're still running for a different seat. So California has that law in place. It's not a Burbank rule. That's California law. So if either one of them make the runoff, they can't run for council again. So there might be either one or two completely open seats. You know, there are 2 seats coming up for re-election, but there could be maybe no incumbents seeking them back.
Well, you know, it's funny. When I saw Judy's email that she decided, you know, Zazette worked in Glendale before she came here,
right,
as a city employee. She was our city clerk for many years.
And a great one.
And now a great city council member.
Yes.
Talk about if anybody knows the issues here in Burbank, she really does. And
you're right. And you're about, just to add on to that, I always feel confident when I hear her talk up there because I know she comes from knowledge and background.
Yeah, business background, city business background. But talk about Judy, you know, like, you know, her dad, she remembers her dad sitting, Larry Stamper, Reverend Larry Stamper.
Former mayor of Burbank.
And she remembers those days of those council meetings. And it was funny in her letter, she said she ran around the halls of Burbank High. Then she ran around the halls of City Hall. She has been park director. She's been in the finance. She's been city clerk. She has been assistant city manager. If anybody knows the city.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the funny part about that is the council only hires 2 employees. That's all they have control over. The city attorney and the city manager. Well, the city manager hires the assistant city manager. So if she gets elected, now she's going to be the city manager's boss. So I hope he treated her well. And I know he did. Justin Hess is a great guy.
We don't know who else. I know I did look, or I read somewhere that she can't do any collecting of funds until I think it's the end of July. Or there's a period.
It's got to be way before then. They're spending money in July.
They can start having teas and coffees for a certain amount of time until they get issued that number.
Right, the California campaign number, whatever it is that you have to.
And then they can start, and that's how then they can start collecting money. But we'll see who else is going to.
They can still campaign. They can still go out and campaign. They can go to teas and everything else. You just can't write them a check.
That's right. But that's a good way. You know, I remember previous elections. A lot of people can start knocking on people's doors.
Yep.
So,
also, this past weekend, while most of you really don't know him, a very good friend of my Burbank and an excellent, very, very good friend of Ross, we lost over the weekend. So, Ross, I'm going to let you okay handling this?
Yeah, I'll try to get through it.
Okay.
Good friend of mine, Michael Bolton, not the singer, Michael R. Bolton. We've been good friends for over 50 years. About 50 years ago, we started a radio group. I remember the first meeting we had at Luther Junior High, and the police chief was there, the fire chief, Glenn Duke, who was a fire inspector, Ron Moore, who was a police detective, got us all together, and they said, you know, I know there's quite a few CBers around Burbank. Why don't you guys start a group? And eventually it was called Burbank Neighborhood Radio Watch. And we went off the thinking of Neighborhood Watch. We helped them conduct Neighborhood Watch meetings. But one of the first things they let us do, we did Park Patrol.
Yes.
And we would, via CB, we'd have a base station somewhere. We went through a lot of changes, but Mike was the cornerstone behind all that. Mike was a CBer until last week. He had a CB. He moved out of Burbank, worked for Lockheed for many years until Lockheed moved to Palmdale. He followed them out there. He retired several years ago and moved out to out the North Valley.
Santa Clarita, was
Santa
it?
Clarita, yeah. A very good dog trainer.
Yes.
You might recognize the name. His dad, Merrill Bolton, was the union president for all the Lockheed employees, machinists, for many, many years. Mike was a diabetic. I can say that, being a diabetic. Diabetes ate him up. He lost some toes. And last week, while being in the hospital, he got COVID and lost his life on Saturday. So I just, in fact, found out that we'll run an obit.
Yeah.
In my Burbank. There's a memorial and the service April 20th at Forest Lawn. But he watched this show and he listened to this show, and I probably wouldn't get maybe 10 feet out the door to head home, and he'd already critique it for me. And he said, you should do this and don't do this. In fact, what was it I was doing at one time?
We didn't put him to sleep, huh?
No, but it was funny because he would say, you do this, and then I was joking about my tooth, and he'd comment about that. And then at one point he said, I'm not going to bug you anymore about the show. It's your show. You're in Craig's show, so just go do it. But it's a loss. 3 of our friends passed away in the last 90 days. And another Seabeard, Jeff Dantagnan. We all worked at Warner Brothers at one time. Mike was a traffic sergeant. Jeff worked security and set watch, and I was a firefighter at Warner Brothers for many years before he went to work at Lockheed. And the other neat thing about Mike, and people might reference during the show, when we used to talk about the skunk works, Mike would call me. He would know what days because being in security, but he wouldn't say anything to me. He would just say, hey, how are you? And then hang up. That was my clue, because now that they can't do anything to him.
Right.
The
C5A was taken off that night.
That was the clue to head out to Empire or Van Owen.
Yep.
And watch that C5A with it.
It makes you duck when it came over.
Oh, definitely.
It barely cleared the fence line.
Yep. And I'll tell you, you remember those things that Mike did. The other thing he got me into was barbecuing. I bought a smoker. He had 3 or 4 barbecues. We got into watching competitions. And I think probably the hardest thing that I found out the last 2 nights, we used to talk at 2, 3 in the morning. We'd have the same kind of schedule. He'd stay up all night. And we'd talk on the phone. And the last couple of nights has been kind of lonely.
Yeah. I'm not sure what to add to that. I mean, he was always a very helpful guy whenever I was around him. When he used to live on Ontario Street, we used to go to his house all the time and have parties there and everything else for the group and everything. And he was always very helpful. He was always, how can I help? So
he was
and he's knowledgeable about things.
He was a police explorer back when they started. I mean, way, then he went into the service and got a discharge. And but I remember him telling me the days of some of the old motor officers that would drive him or pick him up in a car and drive him to the station. They'd get on their motor and he'd do stuff at the station. And that's how he got into, security. And he was a MP in the military. So he had that background. But, as I said to Craig last week, we're all getting up there.
Bitch about being old. You start losing friends. I guess it's better to lose friends than to lose yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so life goes on. And I know right now when I leave here, I'll probably expect that phone call I won't be receiving.
Yep.
So,
okay,
moving on.
Well, tonight's show is dedicated to Mike Bolton and his memory. And Mike, thank you very much for everything. We're going to pause for commercial, and we will be right back.
Enjoying the show right now? Thinking you may want to do your own podcast? Burbank Talks is renting out our podcast studio on an hourly rate. You can do audio podcasts or both audio and video, and even bring in guests to talk with. We will help you get set up on podcast platforms and start a YouTube channel, and we can edit your productions to make you look and sound your very best. If you are interested, please drop us an email at studiorentals@myburbank.com. That's studiorentals@myburbank.com, and we will get back to you. Now, back to our show.
All right. Craig Sherwood here with you, along with Ross Benson.
Hi there. I'm back.
And Craig Dirling is on assignment once again. I'm not sure where he is. Maybe he's in the deep down, down under.
Ooh, he could be.
A new sound effect for us to play with tonight.
Hopefully he'll be back with us because, boy, after that last topic, we could definitely use his...
Yeah. Well, we appreciate seeing him back next week, but he'll be busy all week.
Yep. Moving on.
So earlier today, of course, we had the arts and public places met today. They talked about phase 6 and 7 of the utility box beautification project, and they were going to review the attendance of Patricia Hollis. Well, Patricia, you've been a bad girl.
Well, I know Patty quite well. She's also Walk Bike Burbank. She's a bike rider. She had taken some designated time off for her daughter's wedding, I believe in Australia. And so she was out of the country for a bit. So I happen to know that personally. They just got back, I think 2 weeks ago. And they had a Walk Bike Burbank meeting this last Sunday. I couldn't make it. But I know she said, people bring bags because I have so many oranges that have grown on our tree while we're gone. So I know she's back. So hopefully they'll take consideration.
Let's hope so.
For that.
The Landlord-Tenant Commission are also meeting tonight because we have to have more than one meeting on a night, of course. And they met at 6:15. They had two things really on the agenda. One was a thing about prorated rent and habitability of 230 North Kenwood, which I think is a newer. Is that? Well,
that's one of those side streets off of.
Yeah, that's between Olive. That's between Olive and
230 is.
No, that's okay. That's between the ranch and
Efron. Correct.
So, and then the other one was at 1008 North Keystone for somebody who's issued a harassment and lease changes. Ooh. Now here's
a test.
But here's a problem.
What block is that?
1,000 bucks. I'm gonna guess and say probably between Chandler and
go back the other side.
I was at Chandler and Magnolia. No,
Clark and Magnolia. Yeah.
Clark and Magnolia. Okay.
Happen to know somebody lives on the Apple. I'll tell you, I get around.
Well, it's. I wonder what the harassment is. But here's the problem: they can talk about it all they want to. That's all they can do. They can talk about it. You know, they might as well be 114 years old, no teeth, because there's nothing they can do about this thing.
I shouldn't be on camera when I laugh like that. My tooth will fall out.
They're also going to receive information about common area utility charges, which I think, as a renter of if you're a roommate of somebody or things like that, yeah, I mean, if you got 1 meter for more than one person, how do you really figure out how much electricity that one person's using compared to the other people?
Well, it's funny you talk about that because the place that I lived prior, I'm trying to think where I've moved, I was in a place right behind the old Lincoln Library.
On Frederick, yeah.
On Frederick. That used to be a single-story house, made it into 2 stories, then made it into, converted the garage.
3 units there, right?
With 1 meter.
Yeah.
So when I moved in, he said, well, the garage doesn't use much. You and the guy upstairs just divide it and pay the bill.
I think there's another roommate in the back or something.
Right. They were in the garage.
Oh, okay.
I had a roommate in my place.
Right.
But there was somebody above and
there's 3 people on the property.
Right, but only 1 meter.
Yeah.
Well, divided, and I always thought, I hear the guy above me taking showers for 2 hours. I'm paying for all his water and, all the water heater and the gas.
Well, number one, that was not a legal.
That's right, it wasn't.
Situation.
So that's what I believe. Didn't Constantine bring that up a couple of weeks ago and wanted to have some clarification?
Yeah, I think he did.
At a council meeting.
And
then what about then?
What about then?
Today,
the city council.
No, tomorrow. Tomorrow's city council.
Tomorrow's the city council. Well, yeah, I don't know. I was ready to move. I thought you were trying to have something else for Monday. So okay.
Nope.
Tomorrow the city council. Well, somebody needs to turn on the lights because they're going to be dark tomorrow. No meeting.
Yeah. Now they usually, if you think about it, years ago, do you remember? I remember during voting days, I used to work at the precincts. In fact, it was across the street from where I grew up on Toluca Park Drive. And you would drive the votes, the ballots, and all the equipment up to City Hall, and they had it looped around. And then I became a precinct officer at my house on Olive, and they did that for years. They'd have reserves and police officers, and they had a pretty good walk worked out. You pull in and you drop, but that's why they did not have council meetings on nights of election, because they needed that ground.
The ground level at City Hall.
And you and I remember when that used to be a multi-story parking lot. So they needed that space for to run the election.
Well, we remember tomorrow is election day, primary day.
Yep. What else is it?
So hopefully, make sure you get out there and vote early and vote often, as they say in Chicago. So,
well, it's so funny because I remember I had some workers working on the board with me. They would bring cookies and candy and cupcakes, and I had a LA County officer came and said, "You can't offer those to people."
Oh no, they're the rules are.
You can.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of rules.
They said you cannot offer because that's buying.
Right. Even though you're not talking about the election, you're not talking about, here's a candy if you vote for Richard Nixon.
Yep.
No, you can't.
And you had to watch what was.
Remember, he was not a crook.
No, he was not.
Nope.
But you had to,
What was he? How'd you say that again?
He wasn't. No, he wasn't.
Oh.
No, he wasn't. There we go.
Hey, wait. That effect's already overused. But now tomorrow also, because being the election day, LA County the Metro has decided it's free bus day. So you don't need to pay that one. Right now, it's something about Burbank bus.
I don't know. Well, wait.
Burbank bus is not part of the Metro.
Right. But do you remember at a council meeting a while ago, they brought up and they voted for free bus day one day?
Yeah, that was last month there was a free bus day.
Oh, okay.
So,
well,
but it's, what, even if you had to pay for Burbank bus, it's $1. But you know what? They could make Burbank bus for free. In fact, they could pay you $1 and people still won't ride that thing.
Well, not only Metro trains are free tomorrow.
Yeah.
That Metro, the van, all services Metro gives.
But yeah, just go take a train ride.
Exactly. Free train ride, and it goes till midnight.
Yeah,
just don't get left off in Long Beach.
So that's something. Tuesday night, the Burbank Athletic Federation is going to meet at 6 p.m.
Wait a minute. Let's back up for 1 second. Didn't we just say you can't give anything away?
You give away free rides.
I guess you can, huh?
Yeah. I guess you can give away free things, huh? But that's not at a polling place.
No, but will they take you to a polling place?
Not our bus system. Remember back in the day, too, you used to be able to you'd always have the polling places in somebody's backyard or now it's just like they've narrowed it down. It's just either a school or for years I had to go to the Evergreen Retirement Home and I hate going in there.
Well, because you want to leave and you look at
you walk in, everybody's just sitting there staring at you, and it's like, wow.
I lived at that, Monsignor Keating's old house at Olive and Kenneth.
Yeah.
And Judy Wilkie was our city clerk, and when they wanted to move it to the fire station, I said, "What's wrong with my house?" She said, "You have 3 steps out front. We have to make them handicap accessible." And that's why they wanted to move it. So I remember Judy, when I called her about that, but I worked the polls for a long time and very rewarding.
So let's see here. Athletic Federation's meeting at 6 p.m. They're going to have staff's going to give a report on the youth sports transgender athletic policy. They're going to go over the Burbank Parks master plan. Now that's going to be coming up soon, people, and we'll get into that later. I'll even do a whole show on that. The master plan for the parks, especially for Olive, or I'm sorry, it's George Isaiah Park.
I don't know. Ask Mr. Doste what it's called.
Yeah.
You remember Chris Doste?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Whenever he showed up, he came in at 10 and left at 2, didn't he? I mean, he was
better than banker hours.
Yeah. He'll go ref a game somewhere, do something. I mean, yikes. They're going to get the capital improvement updates, and they're going to get an update on the Schaefer Shade Structure Project and the lighting project at McCambridge Park to bring LED lights in. The shade structure, that's the Olive shade structures. I do call it Olive. the Valley Shade structure, and the Maxim restrooms and building. I guess they're at Maxim Park. They're putting in new restrooms and a multi-purpose building there.
Well, they rent out the room there now to some group, but the reason they need bathrooms, they do pickleball there.
Those pickleball players need to use the restroom.
Well, pickleball is for older people.
Yes, they are.
We won't talk about diuretics this
we're
week.
not. No, we aren't.
'Cause that might just make me have to. I got to go.
It's gonna be hard to do an hour-long show here. So hopefully, are you back now?
I'm back.
Okay. Whew. Glad to have
diuretics.
Glad we have one of those in our studio. Moving on to Wednesday. From 2 to 5 p.m. at the Burbank Animal Shelter. Here's something for you. There's going to be a low-cost vaccine and affordable microchips for your pets, your dogs and your cats only. Not your hamsters, not anybody else.
Wait a minute. Do we? He is so sound asleep. He's out.
Yeah. Well, he's been working like a dog.
Well, he knows that he got all his shots.
Yes, he did. They're going to have affordable vaccines at $16 each and microchips at $10 each. Microchips, everybody should have microchips in their pets. The vaccines offered include the rabies, the bordetella, and then some great initials here, DHLPP and FVRCP, and the flu. You need to call a number, which is 818-238-3340 to secure an appointment. And it's open to Burbank and non-Burbank residents. I'm a little surprised about that.
Now, this is new. They've been, I talked to...
But I do have a question, though.
Oh, wait. Keep it on the tip of your tongue.
Okay.
They were going to do this a while ago, and they didn't have a vet tech, so they couldn't do it because you have to have a licensed vet tech there, and they didn't. So they now have a new vet tech, and what's nice about it, low cost. You go to a vet, they'll charge you up to $90 for these.
Well, they say low cost. I guess maybe they're funding it out at cost, but, the animal shelter volunteers have over $1 million sitting in their account. $1 million. Now, what are they going to do with that $1 million?
Well, it depends how it's earmarked.
Right now, it's earmarked to keep making more money in the bank.
Well, I'm just wondering
it's been there for years.
If they're offsetting this with some of that.
They could be, but I know that every year they add about another $100,000.
Well, I remember, and most people probably do, they used to do it at the fire station. And I remember people with Dr. Martin Small was one of the doctors that did it, and the line would go out down the block around the corner. And then the last time they did it at the fire station was up in the parking lot, and still the line was long. Dogs got into fights. And then they did it at that event that they had over at McCambridge Park, where they would register dogs, and there were tons of things. So moving it over to the animal shelter?
Might as well. That's a good place for it.
Yep.
More controlled.
Well, you can also, if you don't have a dog license, you can make sure you get one.
Might as well get a dog while you're there, too.
Or a cat.
Or a cat. But dogs do a lot of barking. The Civil Service Board is going to meet at 4:30 at City Hall. And they're going to talk about recruitment and selection of employees and appointments and assignments. And once again, I was going to look at, if you go to the agendas and you look at the, on the agenda, you look at that meeting and go to their agenda, you will see the list of every available job in the city that's open and how many have applied. It's funny. For everybody who applies, they take 1 out of 6 for the testing. And of the people who test, they might 1 out of 3 actually get offered a job. So it's not easy to get a job in the city.
Well, they just open them up for firefighters, and there are usually 1,000 of applicants. But if you go to that list, you're right, Craig. It blows me away. People wonder. I counted one day. There's 150 some odd openings in the city of Burbank, and some of them you have to be an employee of the city already to transfer.
Right, lateral transfers.
So, yeah. So,
well, there's also, let's see. This is going to also Wednesday. there's going to be a Zoom meeting. Not a go yourself, but it'll be a Zoom meeting at 6 p.m. for an update on the progress of the Dick Clark Dog Park. Once again, more dogs. The Park and Rec Department invites you to an informational meeting where you will be the first to learn about the latest updates. Unless you've listened to the show in the past, we've already told you those updates.
But also, last Saturday was the do it in person.
Yes.
And I had read on other social media sites that some people had questions. It's funny, they put the diagrams, the renderings.
Yeah.
Boy, those trees look good, but you don't realize.
They're not going to be looking like that when they put them in.
They're not going to look like that for 10 years.
Yeah. Now,
I got a question for you.
Okay.
What have we found when they talk about all these other buildings in town, and we have the infrastructure site? All these places that have to have maintenance 2-3 years down the road. Okay, we know it's going to cost $2.4 million to put in the dog park. Are they putting money away? So when they need to redo things in 10 years, they have the money, or are they going to let it turn to shit? Excuse me.
Well, you know the answer. You just said the answer to that. They're not going to. No, that's not how the city works. They wait until it's a huge need, and then they have to budget for it, and then 2 years later they'll make the repair. I mean, look at the places they're trying to repair right now. They didn't keep them up.
Well, that's what kind of gets. We always say.
I'll tell you what. Look at the Starlight Bowl. There's your example right there.
Starlight Bowl. But we always say they're reactive, and that's what reactive is. They wait till something breaks down. They'll wait till something out there doesn't work, and then they'll say, "Where's the money?"
The Starlight
Bowl. Got to be proactive.
The Starlight Bowl could be such a gem for this city. It's one of a great venue up in the mountains, but yet hasn't been improved in 50, 60 years. It's just sitting up there like a bump on a log.
Well, it's funny, the lights in there are 1950 lights in the cans in those boxes on the side.
Yeah.
Nowadays, these lights move.
Oh, yeah.
When you look at any show, and really.
You could, and then, of course, we'll have our Starlight Bowl season this year, and we're going to have a bunch of
B shows, C shows.
Well, yeah, C shows. Basically, it's all tribute bands. We don't get the real band in here, We get the tribute band to them. And I understand. Okay, the Beatles one, I get that. Everybody loves that every year. It's a huge attendance, But some of the other ones are just absolutely not. I mean, you go to a bar on a Saturday night and probably watch those bands play for that's probably the only venue they use.
Wait, what's that place that used to be up there? Whiskey
a Go-Go.
No, Whiskey Bend.
Whiskey Bend.
That's where
Whiskey a Go-Go was on Sunset Strip.
Right, Whiskey Bend was here in town. I think maybe they auditioned there before they went up to the bowl.
We have there was a place on Magnolia that shut down. Joe's.
Yeah,
that's gone now.
Well, somebody was asking about Joe's last week. He's doing right like Frank's. He's renting it out to movie.
Film production.
Yep.
Let's move on to Thursday. The Water and Power Board is going to meet at 5 p.m. at the Water and Power Building, and they're going to get an update on the advanced metering infrastructure system. They're going to make a recommendation to the City Council. See, they're the board that makes recommendations to the City Council. They're going to make a recommendation about the commercial electric vehicle charging rebate program. I don't know why we need to keep incentivizing these things, but they want to make the following modifications. They want to increase the direct the installation rebate for commercial charging stations from $4,000 to $10,000 per port in the disadvantaged communities, multifamily residences, and public accessible locations. And then other locations with the regular DC chargers from $1,800 to $5,000. They want to increase the utility upgrade rebates. In other words, they want to actually double and triple most of the rebates that they're offering for electric, EV charging and all that. The total agenda, by the way, 1,436 pages long. And we try to read things for you and summarize things for you. But you know what? I didn't have a weekend at Bernie's to spend reading an entire 1,400-page report.
1,436 pages. But what gets me is, I know you love that 2035 plan.
Yeah. But the plan's already out of date.
They're saying we're never going to be able to catch up on EV chargers, car chargers.
I'd like to know, by the way, how many times in the 2035 plan do they talk about electric cars, electric chargers, and all that stuff? How many times have they talked about that? I don't think that's probably in that 2035 plan. That still has 11 more years to go.
We're going to be flying cars
before
we're charging cars. But did you notice I saw on the news yesterday, Tesla chargers, you go down 3rd Street, you look up next to Colony Theater, there's, I think, 50 Tesla chargers. You go to Whole Foods, up on, not Whole Foods, the market up on San Fernando across from the old IKEA.
The old IKEA.
Kmart. What's CVS is up there and Zanku. They've put in about 15 chargers there. Yesterday on the news, they said you can now start using those, but you got to buy an adapter. And I don't know how much Tesla's going to charge for that adapter.
You got to keep spending more and more money.
Yep.
Well, also on Thursday, one last thing is the I know Ross will be going out to the Sheriff's Academy, the Star Training Center in Whittier, because he's going to be, I wasn't say shooting 2 officers. No, he's going to be photographing 2 new officers who were at one time recruits.
Is that the word of the week?
That must be the word of the week, is recruits.
Recruits.
So, if you want a $25 gift card or the chance to win a $25 gift card to Hill Street Cafe, and he gets your name read on next week's show, please send in your name and your address to contest@myburbank.com. And in the subject line, make sure you put the word recruits. Although you can leave out the horn.
Word of the week, recruits.
Oh.
And next week, I'll tell you the name of the 2 new recruits.
Okay, yeah, you tell us all about that.
Right.
Well,
what does that bring us to?
To Friday. And on Friday, it looks like after rescheduling for rain, and by the way, it's supposed to rain on Thursday, so bring your galoshes with you out to Whittier.
Thank you.
On Friday, it's supposed to kind of still maybe have some lingering rain, but they are going to, once again, they had to reschedule because of last week's rain, but they're going to try to once again close San Fernando Road March 6th and possibly March 7th for the reconfiguration project. That's now been extended by 1 day through Friday, March 8th. So sometime later this week, expect to see San Fernando Road shut down, and they're going from 2 lanes in each direction, or two lanes of traffic, 1 in each direction, to 1 lane of traffic, only running from south to north. So, and that starts at Angelino to Magnolia.
South to north. So that's from Angelino
to Magnolia.
Thank you.
So hopefully they will get that started, and once again a pilot program, and hopefully they have room for a bicycle on that somewhere, or hopefully they don't put the lane right next to people sitting there for eating. I don't know. I mocked them a little bit. I shouldn't, but I mean, I have to just put 1 lane in. Hopefully they'll put it right in the middle.
We shall see.
Yeah, we shall see. Well, I guess that's kind of it for the week that'll be, and it's only time for anything on the weekend next week. I don't see anything on the weekend. Do you? No, it's kind of a quiet weekend, isn't it? No, but we do always have time for one last thing, and it's a thing that if you've watched the show this long, you know that you're watching it for this reason, and that reason is very simply
Ross's Rant! Ross's Rant! Ross's Rant!
I'd take a flamethrower to this place!
Me? What's up, Doc?
I'll tell you, I can put that fire out because of the diuretics I'm taking lately. But I'm going to make this one real short and sweet. Thank goodness tomorrow is the election. I feel, and everybody probably can relate to this one, how many mailers did you get in your mail every day? One day I got 8 mailers, 2 of them for the same candidate. I feel sorry for our mail carriers because during election time, it's ridiculous.
I gotta tell you the truth. Every time I see those, I don't even look at. I just throw them on the trash. I don't even look at them.
Well, you're right, and that's what I think a majority of people are doing. They don't look at them; they toss them. That's my rant of the week. And how do you like that?
Wow, I like that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I just think when they bombard you like that, and here's I find interesting. There's only one state proposition. Proposition 1, to support the veterans and homeless and all that. Usually we have, 12, 14 propositions? And on television, every other commercial is... And what about the ones we always get with the dialysis center? Oh, if you don't vote for this, we're all going to die. Right. And yet, 4 years later, they're back on the commercial saying, oh, we got to vote for this. You're all going to... And the dialysis centers are putting these on the ballots because they're trying to make more money some way.
Yep.
And they're not going to let people die. But we didn't get all those but wait till November.
Right.
So that is about it for another week. We appreciate everybody listening. It's important that you're here. It's important that you get the information we think. This is once again Craig Sherwood for Ross Benson, and we wish you a very good week.
My Burbank Talks would like to thank all of My Burbank's advertisers for their continued support. Burbank Water and Power, Cusimano Real Estate Group, UME Credit Union, Burbank Chamber of Commerce, Game Credit Union, Providence St. Joseph Medical Center, Community Chevrolet, Media City Credit Union, UCLA Health, Tequila's Burbank, Logix Credit Union, Hill Street Cafe, Bertain Escobar Wealth Management, and the UPS Store on 3rd Street.